Well, good afternoon. I'm Scott Higgins, an Army veteran and co-founder of Veterans Advantage. And on behalf of all of us at Veterans Advantage, I want to welcome you to our fourth streaming Heroes Meet Heroes, where our U.S. veteran heroes meet our U.S. Olympic heroes. I want to announce to all of you that in the next couple of months, Veterans Advantage will be rebranding to We Salute. Our mission remains the same, and now, as always, we salute those who serve and have served and their family members. So thank you all for joining us. Veterans Day is 2 days away. And before we begin, we want to give a big shout out to all the veterans and their family members in our audience today. We also give a shout out to the Marines in the audience. And of course, Dr. General Marty Steele, who was a Marine general, because it is the 248th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. So today is a very special day and a time for commemoration and celebration. We thank all the veterans and their family members for your service to the country and for preserving the freedoms that we enjoy. To give you some background, Heroes Meet Heroes was created 11 years ago by Lynn Higgins, my co-founder at Veterans Advantage, who doubles as my wife, my beautiful and brilliant spouse. So thank you very much, Lynn. I also dedicated and talented members of our Veterans Advantage team who've worked so hard on this live streaming event. Big thanks goes out to Roy Asfar, Rebecca Martin, Angela McFarland, Marissa Oster, Shanice Innes, Latia Burt, and Jeremy Woolsey for organizing this event. It takes a team to produce this, and they've done a great job. Now, the concept behind Heroes Meet Heroes may be obvious, but it is for our Veterans Advantage members to meet these outstanding American athletes, and likewise for Olympians to honor our veteran heroes. The athletes and veterans who are with us today will share their stories with you and respond to your questions. They share a lot in common: great determination and success, as well as service to our country. Now to our panelists. I'm going to tell you something about each one of them and their amazing accomplishments. And then I'll ask each one to tell us something more about their own stories, what they're doing now, what's important to them. And then for the second part of Heroes Meet Heroes, we're going to open the floor with Q&A sessions. Everyone attending tonight is muted, so we can't hear you. You can hear us, we can't hear you. But if you press the icon at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions, I'll present them to our panelists. Keep in mind, we can't answer all of them, but we'll do the best we can. You can begin asking questions at any point, incidentally. And after the Q&A, we have some great giveaways. There's a Dell laptop. There are 120,000 Wyndham points. And also keep in mind that the first 100 who have attended this event will receive a free year of Vet Rewards or a 1 year added to your membership. And another 100 will receive 2 free tickets to an IMAX movie of your choice. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce General Marty Steele to you all. General Steele, give you a brief bio. If I gave him the entire bio, you'd be here for the next several hours, but let me just hit some of the high points. General Marty Steele enlisted in the Marines as a college dropout. With time and perseverance, now listen to this, he was able to work his way up from private to 3-star general. At the height of his career in the military, he became the Deputy Chief of Staff for Plans, Policies, and Operations at Headquarters, U.S. Marine Corps in Washington, essentially the Chief Operating Officer of the Marine Corps. And upon his retirement, he served as the president and CEO of the largest naval museum in the world, the Intrepid Sea, Air, Space Museum, which is in the Hudson River in New York City. I should add that Marty decided to go back to college, where he obtained not 1, not 2, but 3 master's degrees. Throughout the years, Marty has been able to use his position at the museum to honor those who served, to give breadth and scope to the reinvigorated saying, freedom is not free, and to probe the nature of sacrifice, particularly of those who have selflessly made the supreme sacrifice. He's a longtime member of the Veterans Advantage Advisory Board and was designated a hero vet for his exceptional contributions after his military service. So, Marty, thanks so much for joining us. We'd love for you to share more of your.
Well, thank you so much. And I'll be brief in the opening. I am honored to be part of the advisory board. And also, I have my new We Salute sweatshirt on. So it's a special night for me to be with these tremendous athletes and veterans. And this is the first time I've had an opportunity to participate in this. I live in Tampa, Florida. And since my retirement, I won't go back and repeat anything that Scott said, but I now am very much involved in veterans' mental health issues. I'm privileged to be the co-founder and CEO of Reason for Hope, which is a 501c3 whose mission is to prevent deaths of despair by helping to develop and advocate for policies and legal reforms needed to facilitate safe and affordable access to psychedelic medicine and psychedelic assisted therapies. Additionally, I'm the co-founder and president of the Veterans Mental Health Leadership Coalition, which has over 45 veteran organizations under it, which I'm privileged to lead, and 80 members that are all committed to improving the mental health condition of all of our members of the armed forces, first responders, exacerbated by the COVID pandemic, the medical field, etc. We have two major bills before the Congress right now, Senate Bill 689 and House Bill 1383, which is presented to as the Breakthrough Therapies Act, with bicameral and bipartisan support in the House and the Senate for the purpose of rescheduling psilocybin and MDMA from Schedule 1, which makes it very difficult to do research, to Schedule 2, where we can expand the scope of the research throughout the country, and particularly in the Veterans Administration, because they won't do research on Schedule 1 medicines or drugs. So I'll be honored to be able to talk about that. I've been involved in the issues of the comorbidity with traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, military sexual trauma for over 20 years, and find myself at the cusp of preventing our selfless warriors, and Scott was alluding to this, to have to leave the country to get the medicine and the treatment they deserve that they can't get in the United States by having to go to Mexico, Costa Rica, Central and South America to receive life-saving treatments to preserve their life because of their anxiety, depression, suicide ideation, and addiction to drugs. None of this is about, and I'll end here for now, none of this is about decriminalization or legalization. It is all about research to change the construct of our mental health crisis in America today. It's an honor to be with all of you, and I look forward to this conversation tonight. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much, Marty. We're having some technical difficulties, but I think we're going to get beyond them. And I want to thank you for those comments. We appreciate it. I think there are major health issues that our members are concerned about, and that we'll be directing some of those questions to you, certainly, and Dr. Shinnick. Michelle, so great of you to join us. I wanted to give a bit of an introduction, if I could, and then I hope you can tell us a little bit more about your story. It's great that you're joining us. I appreciate it. Michelle Carter is a shot put Olympic gold medalist. And in high school, we go back there, she was a 4-time state champion in the shot put. In 2006, she won the NCAA indoor title to also help the University of Texas women claim the NCAA team title. She would later go on to hold the highest American record of 67 feet, 8 inches during the year 2016. Also in that year, she received the gold medal at the Rio Olympics. Extraordinary. I should mention that Michelle's father, Michael Carter, whom some of you may know, is also a former Olympian and an NFL star, the only athlete to win an Olympic medal and a Super Bowl ring in the same year. Wow, Michelle, what an extraordinary athletic career. Your father must be very proud. Tell us,
Yes, he is. Thank you. Oh, were you saying something else, Scott? I'm sorry.
tell us a little bit more about your story, if you could.
Yeah, I do have a couple little corrections. Once an Olympian, always an Olympian. An Olympian is never former. They're always currently an Olympian for life. Um, and
Point.
then, um, but yeah, with my story, I won state all 4 years in shot put and discus. I hold 8 state titles there with the National Girls High School shot put record. A fun fact about my dad and I is that we both held the national high school record together. My record was broken, but my dad's record still stands today at 81 feet 3 inches. And then he went on to win a silver medal in 1984. And so I told, we always have this running joke, like who did more win? I have more state titles than he has. He has more NCAA titles than I do. He has a silver Olympic medal, but I have a gold. So I told him I win. And so, but I think my dad and I, we have definitely a unique relationship, being that he was my coach my entire career. And I grew up until I started track and field, didn't even know he threw the shot put until he realized that I was actually interested once I was asked by the coaches in my junior high to join the team. So I have now been retired as a professional athlete for 1 year. And now I am on this entrepreneurial um, journey. So it's a lot of new things that I'm learning and a lot of transition. But I really enjoy the challenge of getting to know who I am, life outside of sports, and finding my new interests and receiving the support that I get from people from all over. I spend most of my time building up my nonprofit called One Golden Shot. And we put on events and hold different things to help build confidence in individuals to be prepared for that one golden moment in life. I take that from my experience of being ready for the 2016 Olympic Games. It took almost 20 years, but being prepared for that moment was worth it. And so I create events for individuals to have that confidence. So when they walk into those rooms or when that moment comes, that they're prepared.
Wow. Thank you, Michelle. That's very inspiring. And speaking of golden moments, I'd like to introduce Dr. Phil Shinnick. Dr. Phil is a world record holder in the long jump, an Olympian, and an Air Force veteran. He's the only one here of our panelists that is both a veteran and an Olympian. His world record in the long jump of 27 feet 4 inches was not recognized by World Athletics until 2 years ago, when it determined that Shinnick retroactively deserved to be recognized as the best on the planet in his event on May 25th, 1963. That was his golden moment, I gather. Shinnick waged a 58-year campaign to claim credit for what was rightfully his, the world record for the long jump. Talk about tenaciousness. Extraordinary. Phil attended officers training school 18 days before the 1964 Olympic trials, and he was so dedicated to making the Olympic team that he would run in the mountains with his combat boots on before sunrise. His perseverance earned him a spot in the 1964 Olympic team, in which he represented the United States in Tokyo. Dr. Shinnick is a legendary acupuncturist, having seen and healed more than 50,000 patients, including me, from his offices in New York City. Phil, we're delighted you could join us today. And, I was thinking, you being the only Olympian and a veteran, do you see a commonality between the two? Tell us a little bit more about your background, which is extraordinary.
Wait, let's answer that. What's the commonality between an Olympian and military? Injuries. If you're an athlete, you always get injured. And I competed for 12 years. I've had 15 major injuries and I've always recovered. If you're a warrior, you get injured mentally. So I think that's that connection, that to answer that question, what's the connection? But the other thing is, I'm going to answer the second part of that question, is Olympians are really warriors. but they're peaceful warriors. And if we continue to compete, we don't have to go to war. So Marty knows that. He was a long jumper as well. So I've been the founder of Athletes United for Peace, where we've brought Olympians together to do peace things throughout the world. Marty, why I'm saying this twice to Marty, because he talked about plant medicine. I'm have a research institute, and I wouldn't mention this if it weren't for Marty, and that I oversee the shamans giving their ceremonies, and I have them record the problems, and we publish in scientific journals. So Marty, I've done the research, I've published on this already. I'm not interested in any of the plant medicine, because an Olympian and as a doctor, I have good consciousness, because you cannot heal people unless you're at your best. You cannot be an Olympian and compete at a high level unless you're at the best. So, that's that connection between healing and competition. And I'm not sure what else I would want to say, but I would want to say that I am very proud of being an Air Force Systems Command and having cognizance over most of all the weaponry in the United States. And I really enjoyed my time in the Air Force. So I don't want to say too much, because I want to hear these questions, except that I'm a good high jumper, and I ran on the 4x100 sprint relay team, did the decathlon, and as a warrior, I do Kung Fu now. And I think that military people have to do martial arts. I'm still doing that. So I'm still a warrior, an Olympian, and a doctor.
Thank you, Phil. I'd like to introduce Richard Jones to all of you. He's a U.S. Army veteran and the founder of Paramount's Veterans Network, very successful executive at Paramount and in business over the years as well. He created the Veterans Network to advocate for the welfare of veterans and their family members. In 2014, he was awarded the George Arantz Award, which is the highest award presented to a Syracuse University alumnus. And most recently, Rich received the 2013 Intrepid Salute Award at the Salute to Freedom Gala. Really extraordinary. Thank you so much for your participation today, Rich. I know your Army career was halted due to an injury, and I know you doctors never thought you would walk again, but you are, and making tremendous contributions to our community. Please share with us some of your story.
Scott, first and foremost, let me just say thank you for all that you do. Being a bright light in what can be described as a dark time, and just doing so much good for so many. And to all of you panelists, and for everyone who's joined, thank you for taking this time. It's so important that during Veterans Week, the general was at the Marine Corps birthday last night on the Intrepid. I may be an Army Ranger, but I'm a Marine at heart. But Scott, listen, as you know, I was so honored and proud to serve as an Army Ranger for 6 years. Unfortunately, I was seriously injured when my parachute malfunctioned during an airfield seizure, and I broke my neck, my back, my legs, my foot. Spent a year at Walter Reed Army Hospital. Went through some really, really difficult times. Very fortunate to have had great care. And this is something I've lived with for a long time. I was able to get myself well. I was able to surround myself with people who cared for me, loved me.
What's wrong with the volume?
And I was able to, the first person in my family to ever get a college education. So Syracuse University was a huge part of that. When I was at the Syracuse VA Medical Center, looking out the window at the university, and by a series of events that led me to an encounter with a veteran on campus who then took an interest in making sure that I was able to get a world-class education, which I did. And it has been because of my experience, which again, and I'll just fast forward to the last 21 months. In the last 21 months, sort of I'll call it the bookend to all of my injuries and healing. I've had 3 surgeries, one to rebuild my neck. 3 of my cervical discs are artificial discs, and a fusion of my C7 and T1. That was then followed by a surgery, an anterior surgery of my lumbar spine, where 4 of my discs were removed, 2 of my sacral discs, artificial disc fusions, then followed by a rear surgery in my back to put more rods in. So in total, 9 pieces of titanium, 10 rods, 20 screws. Yikes. Today, going from not being able to walk when I was at Walter Reed to today, and living through a lot of pain.
Roy.
Today, best shape of my life. And that's the perseverance. And Dr. Shinnick, General Steele, your comment about, the commonality between Olympians, athletes, world-class athletes, and those who serve. It's when you overcome adversity, whatever that is, that your personal best is defined in those moments when you're laid low. And I'm so honored, and I view anything that I've gone through to be an example. Last night, General, being with the Semper Fi Fund and being with Wounded Warriors, which again, to be able to crawl out of that hole and overcome that, and all that I do at the company, right? I'm not going to go into, you can see but when it comes to programming, some of the best veteran programming, accurate, honorable portrayal, SEAL Team, NCIS, Blue Bloods, Top Gun, Saving Private Ryan, Forrest Gump, all of the Paramount pictures that accurately portray the men and women who have served this country. And I think that in my estimation, it's the highest expression of citizenship. And Scott, it is my honor to be shoulder to shoulder with you always to support that mission. So thank you.
Very inspirational. Thank you so much. And last, but certainly not least, is Ben Kanute. Ben is an American triathlete who was recently given the title Fastest American for his Ironman, which he did in 7 hours, 37 minutes, and 1 second. Absolutely extraordinary. He was able to achieve this astounding record in only his second try. And Ben also won the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon 4 times consecutively. The 2 times middle distance triathlon runner-up world champion knew at the age of 7 that he would become an Olympian after seeing his father compete his first triathlon. And since June 2023, he's been spearheading the list of U.S. triathletes on the Ironman distance. So Ben, tell us how you got into these triathlons besides your father, but it's pretty extraordinary. What keeps you running?
Well, thanks for having me. This is incredible to be a part of these panelists. And I think I'm probably one of the most excited to just be here and learn from everybody who's about to talk. And as for myself, I think that I've just had this draw to endurance sport and to just finding my limits and pushing myself and challenging myself throughout the years. And I was lucky enough to just be in the right place at the right time to be introduced to the sport with a kids triathlon that happened 15 minutes down the road from my house, that my parents and other parents helped organize because they loved the sport and just thought it was a great expression of being able to help people get active and move. And a couple of years later, was able to join a kids triathlon team created by a lot of those same parents. And that really set me on my Olympic track and setting me up for a life of professional sport. And honestly, I just love the sport in general and endurance sports, and was lucky enough just about a month ago to go and support the Challenge Athletes Foundation, which really takes triathlon and being able to move to that next level. And I just feel that that is really what embodies my love for endurance sport, being active, and just the triumph of the human spirit. So just excited to be here, excited to learn, and again, an honor to be on the panelists with all these great men and women.
Thank you, Ben. That was very well spoken. Now we'd like to start the Q&A portion. And as a reminder, if you press the icon at the bottom of your screen, you can submit a question and we'll see them and present them to our panelists. Just make sure before you submit your question that if your question is specifically addressed to one of them, then you should include their name in the question. So I'm looking over the questions that are coming in now, and let's see. I'm getting some assistance here. What about this one? Since we've been dealing with a lot of health issues, the first question to come in was from an anonymous attendee. He said, what would be the best way to deal with separation from service depression? What resources are available for the individual? I know there are a number of people that are going to comment on that, but Rich, maybe you would like to start off.
Listen, Scott, to the veteran who asked this question, listen, the most important thing, and to this day, the thing that does the most for, and I would suggest that as it relates to mental health challenges in general, again, we all deal with them, right, in various ways, shapes, and forms. But that loneliness, that depression, that loss of identity, that loss of feeling like you're part of a family, is a rending process. One that along with any other kinds of trauma that you're dealing with can be debilitating. The cure for it is being connected with fellow veterans, with the veteran community, that those people who understand you, who speak your language, who love you, and are a support network. And so I would say, make sure that, listen, with social media today, being able to connect with people is so much easier. And beyond that, there are so many organizations, whether it's the national VSOs or local veterans groups at Paramount Global. That's why I started our Veterans Network. And if I would just say to anyone out there, our Veterans Network is not something that's inward facing, it's outward facing. We embrace all veterans to the extent that we can be of assistance. So the Paramount Veterans Network, you can go to our website. We have resources. We are partners with others in the space with the sole purpose of providing resources that are needed. So please check that out. But from my estimation, my own personal experience to this day, that's the thing that last night, and I will say, if you're a Marine, go to a birthday this week, tomorrow, be part of that ceremony. You can't help but walk away from there, even if you're not a Marine, that you were so proud, listen to the Marine Corps band, and stand up and sing the Marine Corps hymn. It is, that's what's going to make you feel a lot better. Community.
Great. Thank you. Marty, you want to add something to that, or Phil?
I'd be honored. I had the privilege to lead a company that helped in the transition of over 900 Marines, primarily Global War on Terror era Marines, to transition from their service to the civilian life. And then I said I lived in Florida, and the governor of Florida in 2014 established an organization called Veterans Florida, which is a not-for-profit, legislatively mandated, but it's about veterans transitioning and having the opportunity to be able to be interviewed, get jobs, companies hiring vets, kind of in consonance with what Richard said. Florida would state that they lead the nation in at being able to do that. And it is about community. It is about communication. It is about sharing. And so what we were doing in the first organization construct was having reflection on who they were, what their issues were, and being able to communicate unhesitatingly about what demons they were dealing with, and then help them in regards to self-esteem and what community, comradeship, teamwork could mean as they move forward in their lives to be able to assimilate easily back into our society. It's a major challenge because particularly with this cohort of 2.3 million that have come out of the global war on terror with multiple tours of combat, it's very hard in our society to understand what you've gone through. But the person who does, as Richard said, and I'm sure that Dr. Shinnick will also say, our community clearly does. We get it, and we're all there for one another. And I know this sounds corny coming from a 77-year-old man, but we've learned what it means to love one another and selfishly serve one another. And that's what we're going to do until the day we drop.
Bill?
Yeah, I do have something to say. And what was just said by Marty and Richard is good, because you have to unite with people who have common experiences, and that is a very stabilizing force. But you have to deal with your body and you have to deal with your mind. And this is a cultural thing. So for depression, as a doctor, you need to move. You need to move, and running, biking, any movement, art, music, anything with body sensations, stimulation is good for depression. In terms of mental things, there are meditations where you watch your mind and you record what the movement of thoughts is, how fast they come, and what the content is. And when you start watching the content of your mind, you start understanding what your issues are. This is very important, because if you watch the movement of your mind, you start to understand of who you are, and eventually you'll find what you want to do. And when you find out what you want to do in this life, that's the start.
Well said.
It's important to dig and to find out what really your interests are. And that the movement and the mental exercises, uniting with your military people, these are all part of it. It's a cultural and political and also social and physiological problem.
Thank you, Phil. Michelle, you mentioned being an entrepreneur. Can you explain more of what that path looks like for you?
Yes. So I told you about my nonprofit that I do have. I'm also a speaker. So I go to different companies and different organizations, share my stories, and really encourage others to push through hard times. I know Richard talked about his back injuries. I didn't have back injuries as extensive as his, but in 2016, 3 months before the Olympic Games, I ended up having a few herniated discs in my back, and really made training really hard. I could barely walk. I was in so much pain, but really pushing through that time, really focusing my mindset on positive things, because it's really easy to get sucked down into what you can't do and what you don't have. And I really had to really push through that hard time, and ended up being Olympic champion, and I wasn't 100% healthy. And so it's amazing what the body and mind can do at any given moment. But with that, I also have a podcast called the Podium Life Podcast, where we talk about people who have their podium moments, like when they reach that golden opportunity or reach that one goal in life, and how do we take what we've learned in those moments and relate it to everyday life. And I have a couple of products coming out that I have developed that I'm really excited about. So I'm doing all the things that my little girl mind wanted to do years ago, but because sports took over my life, I couldn't do it. But now I have the opportunity to kind of just spread my wings and do things that I truly enjoy and that I believe can uplift, encourage, and add to people's lives.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ben, here's a question from Todd McIntyre. He said, what triathlon did you consider your hardest and why? Also, what do you think of when you are suffering the most during your races?
That's a good question. I think, some of the ones that I think are the worst or suffered the most maybe are the ones that weren't the best performance. Maybe one of them would be the Rio Test event, where I had a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation and really underperformed before being able to come back and reattack and go and qualify for the Rio Olympics. But honestly, the race where I set that American record in Roth, Germany, at the end of a marathon with the last few miles, I think the Ironman is a funny thing where it feels good and strong until it doesn't, and then everything starts to ache in a way that it never really ached before. And those last few miles were just about putting one foot in front of the other. And I think that's really when things are hard. It's just about centering yourself, being in the moment, and focusing on what can I do right now to do the best and pull the best out of myself. And sometimes that's, just putting that one foot in front of the other. It's going through your checklist of everything, whether it's on the bike or the run, to make sure your form is good, and just really, focusing on that moment and trying to be right in it and not thinking about what you've done or what you're trying to do 15, 30, or 60 minutes from then.
Wow. Thank you. Here's a question for any of the military veterans. I'm 33 years old. I'm married with 3 kids and a wonderful career. I'm thinking about joining the reserves, and I'd love to get your advice on what considerations I should make as I explore this path. Who'd like to address that one?
Well, I can start, and I would say it's, again, all what's been said. Dr. Shinnick said it best. I think it's doing the reflective thinking in regards to who you are and what you want to be in your life. And that pathway is a good one if you've made the assessment of it's the value added to as a husband, as a parent, and as a complement to what you've done while you're on active duty. It's a great course to take, but it's something that you need to clearly understand before you get into it. And I'm a proponent of it. I think that we need strong reserve forces and strong people who really understand who they are and the contribution that they can make. So if you go through that process and you can find a natural fit for your military occupational specialty in a location where it's going to be not too difficult to get to and from meetings, et cetera, I think that you'll be fulfilled. And I think it'll be an adjunct to your professional life of what you're doing day to day. And I've got many friends that stayed in the reserves, and it was the highlight of their lives because it connected, as we've said up to this point, to that common bond that all of us hold together that have privilege to serve in the armed forces of the United States. And you can never break that bond. So I'd recommend that you go down and talk to them and see what they're offering and how it fits with what you want to do with the next chapter of your life.
Good advice. Anyone else want to add to that?
I have 2 kids, and the biggest problem will be, what does the wife and the kids think about this? Because there's going to be weekends away, and there's going to be a month, and so it's really a family issue, I think. And so if this is something that you really want, then you have to bring your children and your wife along. If they love you, they'll support you, and that's pretty much it. But you have to really say with a deep commitment, this is something that I want. And I think that when you say that, I think everything will come from that.
Okay. Good. Mm-hmm. Great. It's refreshing to hear. This is a question from David Callahan. It's refreshing to hear so many senior military members talk about mental health and asking for help. How can we change the stigma of mental health being a forbidden topic? Feel free to jump in.
Dr. Shinnick, you want to go first, and I'll follow you this time.
Well, isn't it an issue of weakness? Admitting a weakness? It seems to me that's the issue. And I don't know how to address the question that asks, how can you change that? That's a social and political issue. But I do think that that the more we start to present different ways of therapy, that's the best. And that we have to publish on this. We have to speak about the different kinds of therapies. Marty talked about plant medicine. I talked about mental things, but it's really putting out a solution. Now, if you put out a solution, it's, a spark, it has a wildfire. So I don't think we can talk about what will happen at the end. I think that what we have to say is that that there's ways to address this on a personal level, and then the social thing comes later.
Well said. I just reinforced that the work in consonance with the question of stigma. All the work that we're doing right now in Reason for Hope and the Veterans Mental Health Leadership Coalition is education. Education for our political leaders at the federal and state level, education for active duty military leaders, and education for the public writ large, that there's no shame here. The stigma is, we're beating that down, and if you will, I mean that in a very positive way, through that education process and having people understand that we can no longer compartmentalize or categorize or put people in a condition wherein they're having to defend their honor for a challenge they're going through in their life. And as Dr. Shinnick said, and I'm going to reinforce here, it's the community again, and all of us understanding the family, the loved ones, the selflessness, and an understanding that as long as we can ensure that people know themselves and are learning more about themselves and are reaching out for help unabashedly, then we will defeat the stigma and move on to not only get the laws changed that are so necessary for the research that needs to be done to enhance the mental health condition in our country, but we'll get back to the basics of understanding the uniqueness of what we bring to the table to preserve our way of life in the greatest country on earth, the United States, because our contributions are unparalleled.
I agree with that. Moving around quite a bit here, there's a question for Michelle. How's it feel, Michelle, to have done better than your father?
It's all, like I said earlier, it's an ongoing joke, but because of his silver, that's why I got gold. That's how I look at it. So I don't look at it like, oh yeah, I did better than you. It's because you did what you did, I was able to do more. And I think that's what a good example of making the next generation better. You want to put them in a better position than where you were. And so my dad made his mistakes and he learned from his mistakes and he passed what he learned to me. So I don't make the same mistakes that he did so I could get gold. So I'm very appreciative of it. And when he's like cutting up and making fun of me and we're joking, playing around, it's always a good trump card to use to be like, now what? Like you only a silver medalist, I'm a gold medalist. You can't tell me nothing anymore.
That's great. So we're bouncing around here on different things. Richard, now that it appears that major strikes are over, will opportunities begin to open up in your company, or will it take a while to power up again?
Yes, the answer is yes. The entire supply chain, which is the entertainment industry, will be up and running. I do think that the industry is facing a reckoning with its cost structure. Anybody who's following the streaming businesses, so I think that what you're going to see is generally less productions. As an example, in 2013, there were 50 premium shows that were in production. Today, there's over 650. So and that was as a function of low interest rates and easy money. And now, all of the entertainment companies are finding it very difficult to be profitable. So I think there will be a contraction in the number of productions, but having said that, they will find a balance, and there will be plenty of opportunities. And the good news for veterans is that all of the entertainment companies, and I'll just say we host Veterans in Entertainment Summit. So if you can reach out to me, we host that. It is a 2-day event, virtual, so you're able to sign up. That will give you insight into opportunities, careers. And obviously veteran hiring is a major initiative. So the answer is yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Rich. I'd also add that for Veterans Advantage members, Paramount Plus has been very generous in offering 2 free months of Paramount Plus. So go to veteransadvantage.com and you can sign up for that, and it's free. Thank you, Rich, for that.
And if I can just say one thing, a little PSA. We produce for the Commandant. We started under General Berger during COVID. A virtual. We produced we did it virtually during COVID in 2021, but it's a full production. The entire Marine Corps birthday, along with other parts from Marine Corps headquarters, will be presented on Pluto TV, which is our free advertising supported streaming service. It's free. And on the military channel on November 19th, once our production team fully literally it's hot off the presses, they're putting it together, the Marine Corps birthday will be available for all Marines everywhere, and for all those who support the Marine Corps. That's going back to the question about how do you defeat this? Watch the Marine Corps birthday.
One way to do it. I've been to so many of them, and they are so great. Particularly the one on the Intrepid is really
100%.
So fabulous, so well done. That's great that you're doing that, because that will expand the experience to so many more people. Yeah. Ben, an anonymous attendee said, "What is your favorite, swimming, cycling, or running? Also, is the runner's high real? Because I've tried long distance running and it's just miserable from start to finish."
Isn't the saying going like my sport is every other sport's punishment with running? But I think that I chose triathlon because of the variety. And another triathlon joke is, why pick just one sport that you could be great at when you could be mediocre at 3? So I just love the variety. So I get to, extend my day of being outside and training because I get to do swim, bike, and run. And I find that the bike and the swim really helps complement that endurance running. And with those being less impact, I can get more time, outdoors training, doing what I love, rather than maybe a little bit more risk if I was just trying to run more and more miles. But I do think the runner's high is a thing. It definitely can take a little bit. I find when I take my off season and come back, that first even 2 to 4 weeks can be an absolute grind. And as you try and find your shape again, it's sometimes not very fun, but I think that coming out on the other side of it, and when you find some of that consistency through the discipline, you first feel accomplished from all the work that you've put in. and then your body really starts to crave that activity. And even if it's just moving, for 15 to 30 minutes, you don't have to move for an hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours. But that's just really, something that I find it's energizing a lot of times.
Great. Rich, one of the questions was, can you repeat the websites for veteran hiring? I think you mentioned one.
Well, go to our one place you can start off with is ParamountVetNet.com.
Right.
And then on there, you'll see information about the Veterans in Entertainment Summit, which it occurs next week. It's going to be the 14th and 15th. And the keynote is a dear friend, Montel Williams, dear friend to all. And we have industry leaders who will share their experience, and a lot of information will be shared there as well.
Okay, great. I'd also add that Veterans Advantage has a job and career center, and there are 1,000 companies that have posted their jobs there. It's free to the veterans and free also to the companies. Veterans Advantage picks up the expenses associated with it. And there have been a lot of jobs that have been taken from that list. So I'd urge you to go to the Veterans Advantage website and look at it if you're looking for job opportunities. Brittany Melberg says, for Phil and Marty, how do you come across plant and holistic medicine, and why do you think it's important? Do you think it'll be legal in the future for veterans and the public as a whole?
Well, there's two questions, right? Where do you get it, and will it be legal? It grows. San Pedro is a cactus. So if you look at most of the cactuses, you cut them up, and inside there's mucus kinds of things. And so it's a cactus. And peyote is a cactus. And mushrooms grow on trees. So you have to learn, where they come from. Now, in terms of people, I don't know. But I heard that in New York City, there were something like 100 ceremonies every single night. So it's the tentacles are out there. I monitor, and I'm the mentor for several shamans, and they're busy as can be. So I don't know. It's like in the old days when weed was illegal, like, who's your dope dealer, and but I do think that the hospitals are now using these plants. So I really can't say where to get it from, but it's a cultural thing. It's out there. You just have to ask a bunch of people. Probably your next door neighbor would know. Now, when it will be legal, I think it's an international issue. I don't know why. For thousands of years, the shamanism before religion came would be the things where people would unite. Now, if you're thinking of just where do you get these plants, the plants, from my publications and my oversight, it's drumming, it's having a fire, it's dancing, it's singing, it's all of these things and the plants. It's not just the plants, it's a social thing. It's very much, and then religious sort of took that over, and it became more language. And if you look at a church, they sing, they do things together. And this is what the plants have in common with religion. And so if you're looking for just one thing, like a plant, I don't think that you'll get the proper experience. It has to be within a ceremony.
Right.
Reinforce again, our work is on the rescheduling of these medicines, initially psilocybin and MDMA or Molly, from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, so research can be done. It's not about social use or access or decriminalization. It's about research so we can learn viable alternatives for treatment of mental health issues wherein SSRIs are not doing the job for the patient profile. And I reinforce what Dr. Shinnick said. This will take time. We're not in any hurry, because what we're getting through is the stigma, and then the need for research and the federal state laws to be able to allow the research to be done. And it's above board. So we don't have to have the situation where it's underground. It's just like our veterans. Our major theme is we don't want them to get arrested by trying plant medicine underground in the United States where it's illegal, or having to go outside the United States, which to me is unconscionable, to get the mental health treatment that they so much deserve right now. So I think this will be a process, and I think that it'll take some time, but I believe that we're headed in the right direction because of the education right now and the viability of what's occurring under the proper supervision through research with these protocols for treatment and therapy and sustainment in that space.
Marty, we've had some conversation with Dr. and General Laurie Sutton, who's promoting some very exciting work with respect to using hallucinogenic drugs for PTSD. Yeah. Have you been?
Yes, been that's what this is all about. And I know General Sutton, and we've been working with the VA. We're wanting the VA to take I affectionately call them a fast follower. As I said in my opening, they're not into researching Schedule I drugs. It's a difficult process, and that's why we're going with the Breakthrough Therapies Act to get it to Schedule II, so the VA can do much more research, and we can have protocols wherein veterans with comorbidities, multiple comorbidities, can be a part of the process. So the VA has come a long way in a short period of time. I was on the VA Commission on Care in 2016, appointed by Senator Mitch McConnell, along with 14 other people, and we were looking at the issues of mental health, the shortcomings in the VA, and whether or not the VA, because of the suicide rates, which were 22 a day, who knows right now. The VA would say it's 17. We say the data would say it could be as high as 40 a day. And what we're trying to do is get the VA to play a much more vibrant role, so our profile of veteran can stay in the VA system to get the treatment and the help that they need. She's done a great job with all this, Brooklyn does a great job there. There are others that do amazing work, but it needs to be much more pervasive in the system in the VA.
Okay, well, that's very exciting and hopeful.
Yeah.
Well, we're bumping up against our time, and I'd like to also say that we're going to be we've gotten dozens and dozens of questions that we haven't been able to address, but we will be responding to each one of them, rest assured. I want to give special thanks to our lead sponsor, Avis Budget, and the talented team there led by the Senior VP, Stephen Wright. And for many years, Avis Budget has advocated for veterans and has partnered with Veterans Advantage to offer exclusive savings to our members. Joining us again as a sponsor is 1-800-Flowers and its family of brands, Jim McCann, who's the chairman and founder. He makes sure that our Vet Rewards subscribers receive 30% off their flower orders. It's a great benefit, and it's the very same discount that they offer their own employees. We also want to thank IMAX and their CEO, Rich Gelfand, who's donating hundreds of tickets to an IMAX movie, 2 of which for many of those who are attending today, and to Dell, who is donating a free Dell computer, to Ryan Hudson at Dell, who arranged this gift, and to Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, who honors Vet Rewards subscribers with deep savings on rooms, and it's more than 9,000 properties worldwide. And today we're awarding 120,000 Wyndham points, good for a week's stay at one of their exceptional properties worldwide. So we're deeply honored to have these sponsors. And on behalf of Avis Budget, 100 of you attending our event today will receive a free 1-year subscription to Vet Rewards, or 1 year added to your current subscription. It's the least we can do. Our Vet Rewards subscribers will also be getting a real thank you for Veterans Day from our partner, Wendy's. Make sure you go to Wendy's before 10:30 on Veterans Day, Saturday, and you'll show your card for a free breakfast combo. Now to the giveaways. We've employed a random selection system to choose the winners, and I'd like to announce them now. And if you're chosen, I hope you can say a few words and say hello and your branch of service at least. Okay, the first is the winner of the Dell laptop, and his name is Rich Avery. So Rich, if you're there, talking permitted.
Yes. Can you hear me?
How are you?
I'm great. It feels like I just won the lottery.
You did.
I'm a Navy veteran, reservist. I'm a hospital corpsman. This has been a blessing and an opportunity, and just hearing every single one of you speak tonight was definitely a milestone for me, because in order to be great, you have to be led by greatness, and every single one of you are just amazing, just to listen to your stories and the opportunities that you're providing for us. I do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Rich. Appreciate your remarks, and congratulations. And now, in terms of the 120,000 Wyndham points, the winner is Stacy Harrison. And we are allowing Stacy to talk. Stacy, congratulations. Can you hear us? Okay, you're no longer muted. You can say hello. All right. Well, there seems to be a little bit of a lag there, but congratulations to Stacey Harrison. She's on, and you'll be receiving those points. And everyone else who has received the tickets or the 1 free year of Vet Rewards will receive an email from us and instructions about how it is implemented. So, in conclusion, I want to thank each of the panelists for finding the time to be with us today for this event. And thanks to all of you for your service and your support of Veterans Advantage. And we salute. Happy Veterans Day to all of you. Stay safe and see you soon.